Hello and welcome to this week's CENTCOM broadcast. This week we launch into a two-part series where Bob talks about how to build out a city in hope. He talks specifically about the tools that are necessary to build the people around you and the community that you live in. We know you'll enjoy this broadcast and we thank you for joining us.
We're just getting first things first, magnifying God. And so there is so much polluted thinking about the reality of who God is in the present, how He wants to give you a radiant, hopeful life, and how He wants you to see through the filter of who He is and how great He is. Great is our God, greatly to be praised. In the citadels, the high places of this city where it seems like darkness is taken over, little boy with a little stone who believes in God is going to bring down some big giants. He says, you come to me. You look big and strong. I come in the name of the living God. Through my God, I'll run through a troop and leap over a wall. So God is inviting us, but as marvelous comrades, to go into this place where we create a culture and an environment by the grace of God together, to where we become these hope reformers, these hope craftsmen, and cities and nations are changed. Because you get a few that believe, and you get a few that know how to take lemons and turn it into lemonade because they believe in their God. It's real Bible, and He wants to give us these new hearing aids. He's called this year the year of the silver lining. So it's the year of the silver lining of hope, and I just say this. I'm going to have Amy Ann share an activity here in a minute with us. About 3 years ago, I had a dream that I would go from little wheel territory to big wheel territory. I would, and others with me. And the platform that we were on went 40-story high, but the platform was small, and in other words, it had boundaries. Not that it was small, but it happened. We went from running some businesses, developing our own Hope Center, to we're speaking to thousands of people, and we go into big wheel territory. A lot of prophetic, and when you get into that area, kings have king-size problems. And we had some king-size challenges and issues. We're boycotted by Norway and about 3 nations over there. The bishop comes out against us, and it's not a big deal. Put us on the front page of the paper. I won't get into all that, but you get all these letters, and so it was a time to magnify the Lord. I wasn't very moved by that. Other challenges, that came. I had to go deeper into hope. I found areas where I hoped in 8 out of 10 areas, but there are 2 areas that then got to me when I started to go into big wheel territory. Big devils, big challenges. So I had a dream. I got a blue car, and I did back then. And that I'm going in this little blue car, it's got revelation. That's what blue means. And this big wheel runs over me, tries to crush me. And it's what happened in real life. I'm driving down here, I-70, and a semi switches lanes, but I'm not paying attention. I'm looking at a text on my phone. And all of a sudden I see this huge wheel coming up over the top of my car. So, needless to say, it messed up the car a little bit. I pull out from under it. And the Lord said, you aren't just going to be able to move out in revelation and succeed in these days to come. You're going to need to be a patriarch of hope. You're going to need to develop others with you that are hearing, that they hear through a different filter. Bob Jones called me about that time, and he said, it's time to depart. You're going to need a whole community to go where you guys are going. And you just can't go out into these settings all alone, unprotected. So the Bill Johnson Revival Alliance, Shale and their group, they say, hey, come be a part, let us help watch out for you, and that kind of stuff. So, but I said, no, we're to be about something. I'll be part of that. But our own community, building up on the ground, and people that filter life a different way, and day by day, they're encouraging each other while it's still today. And we're going to figure out a Hope Alliance and see how that builds and how that comes forward. So get run over by that semi. I go out of town to share somewhere. I come back, and they had bought a car for me for $5,000. It's a silver Cadillac. And I had a dream that he was going to give me a silver car, silver lining. That the silver lining is really, if you look it up, it's the ability to find hope in an otherwise hopeless situation. It's a hopeful prospect in the midst of difficulty. And through the dream, he said, I'm going to give you a bunch of friends that see the same way. And I just tell you, well, I'm going to tell you about who to be imprinted by, but there's so much in my heart about hurdles turning into treasures from this dream. And a community of people that would see that way and filter everything through magnifying the greater than God and be real hope craftsmen. We will see cities and nations change if we do the Deuteronomy 6, where it says, magnify God, and then your children will inherit splendid cities they did not build. If you keep repeating the promises and you feed their soul on the goodness of God and what He's doing, then they start to believe and they start to become more than overcomers. I'll finish with this. Zeal without hope is toxic. And I've been around some of the most intense, in-time, hardcore, apostolic, get out of my way, I got a purpose, people look. We're constipated with this. I say you need to have a bowel movement. Really, love movement. Where you just get refreshed and they make it easy yoke. I mean, your intensity is not going to bring in nothing but religiousness. But people get addicted to that. It's a do it wrong harder principle. So I'm responsible for the youth, and I'm not saying you don't press in, but everything can be quantified. We're talking about. But youth are made to be joyful. Jesus brought up two of the disciples in tents. He said, let them celebrate. People are made to celebrate celebrate God. It shows a believing spirit. It shows a believing spirit. So I'm leading the youth in Kansas City. Mike had started the church, Mike Pickle, and all these people had sent their children. Leonard Ravenhill. And if you knew Leonard was intense. Okay? His granddaughter. And Deborah. And all these other ones sent all their children. And they were very intense. And I'm not saying, great leaders. I don't want to qualify everything. But this group of young people had a lot of religion pushed down their throat. Not necessarily just the settings they had got into. Where they hadn't really met Jesus. They were just taught from birth that you're going to, be martyred in front of the Antichrist. You're going to rebuke the Antichrist in a stadium and then get your head cut off. Go out glorious, You start telling 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds that, and I think some of them get killed, for the sake of the men, but I think, it's just, so all these, is this fun? Anyhow, the filter they hear through, they hadn't had the foundation of a good God. A good father, so they're soldiers. Versus sons and daughters that get to partner with their God, and then out of love, you get to go into the warfare with Him. And so anyhow, there are about 300 I take to a place called Bolivar, Missouri, and God changes their filter. We come in, and it's this religious intensity and this, it's no fun. You just want the meetings to be over, So, but you're doing what you're supposed to do. So, Daniel Breimer, David Roos, if you've heard of him, Kevin Cross, different ones, they're leading worship. And all of a sudden, young people go from this, again, intense, get out of my way, I got end-time apostolic, hardcore purpose look. Which I'm not saying it's not right to have purpose. I'm saying it's wrong to be driven by zeal without hope and love. And so all of a sudden they start getting loose. And I can tell you the story. I wrote 70, 80 pages for just 4 or 5 days. They start getting loose. They start celebrating. And there's a lightness in the air. And all of a sudden, I got my little brother there. He's a mathematician. He's got a great brain. And Charlie Swoboda teaches NASA scientists and astronauts now. So we're going to get these guys with great brains. And I said, because a few of them said, we're seeing angels. And we're seeing God's greater than, and then He's really happy. And we're seeing, and these angels are telling us that if you get closer to God, you get more happy. You don't get more afraid, and you're getting, and you got a whole different filter to this radiant, laughing, celebrating God there. So they're telling me this. So I'm, relating but not relating. I'm trying to understand what they're saying. So I get these two guys, and I said, why don't you tape off different areas and ask these kids how many angels there are in this area? So they do. They take masking tape. And they take an area, and they bring over about 6 or 7 kids, and they said, how many angels are there? And then they asked them, what do they look like? And their most joyful, celebratory angel. I mean, the descriptions were all identical. They take them one at a time. And they're talking about their wisdom and their appreciation. And they said, but we couldn't see them. We could never see them before. And so all of them say 8 angels. Exact same number, except one boy. He says 10. Okay, I don't know if you're going to believe it. I don't care. I'm telling you. I'm just being a reporter. With my little brother Charlie Swoboda. So these other children are watching when he said, there's 10 angels over there. He'd go like this. He'd duck. He'd poof. I mean, he'd duck his head down. And the other kids said, he's lying. He doesn't really see him. So every time he says there's 10, his angel boofs him on the head. So I'm scratching my head. That night, it's just a blowout, with the angelic celebration. If this is somebody that I owe money, tell them to talk to Joe Van Heerden. He's got money. He can pay for it. Okay? It's all mine. I'll call him back. Text her. Okay. She's having a garage sale and it's raining. No. God isn't going to bring one person to buy it all. We're going to the 5 million mile view. We ought to all go over there and buy our stuff. That'd be fun, wouldn't it? Yes. That would be a good deal, Better yet, you just give me the money and I'm going to go. Everybody gives me $10 and I decide what I'll buy for you and bring it to you. So they're starting to say out of the mouth of babes, God's greater, He's more joyful, and He's awesome God, He's a beautiful God, He's a comforting God, He's caring. It starts giving me language for adoration. And the angels are describing who God is to them. So you go to bed that night and think, did that really happen? And I had 3 guys that were from a Catholic school that's real elite. That, from Rockhurst and the Bakers. And so they don't see the angels, so they're criticizing me. They say, up in we're 3rd story out of the store, and they're saying, there ain't no angels out there. So I'm going through the Bible where angels are. There's a lot of scripture about angels, And so, but they're looking at me, and also they back up about 3 times. Well, I'm standing by a window, and they just leave. And the next morning they tell me that why they're talking to me and discounting angels, an angel shows up in that window behind me making faces at them. Their filter is getting blown. Next morning, we have Noel Alexander share. Okay? Well, Noel's intense too. Back then, if you sin once, you die. You remember that? He had that. Now, he's changed a lot, but he's telling you, you sin once, you die. The fear of God, time sanctification, So he's trying to tell them this, and they're all giggling and laughing. You don't giggle and laugh. He's terrified, So I'm going around, and I said, what is wrong with these guys? And they said, don't you see it? And I said, what is it? They said, his angel is making bunny ears behind his head. So, this is is unfolding. Now everybody's starting to drive. It's 3.5 hours away. All the Jim Gall, Bob Jones, everybody's starting to drive down. Francis Frangipan, his daughter was there. If you know somebody, they're all want to observe what's happening because the testimony is getting back to Kansas City. They're coming to observe. So next, we have a time together. It just goes all through the day, and they all start crying. But it's real tender, beautiful crying. And I walk around, and some of the hardest ones. I mean, some that I don't know if they'd ever cried before. I said, "What's wrong?" And they said, "The constant statement is we've underestimated him. We've treated him as less than who he is, and we've given ourselves to demons." Basically, they said, for our source of life, our source of identity, our source of affection. So it was like 1 Kings 18, Baal. They said, we really didn't believe he was a God that provides, a God that cares. And they're weeping, but it's real tender, it's beautiful, it's not heavy, it's sorrow with hope, because they're seeing a greater than Father that they have treated as less than. It was beautiful. And they just cry and just apologize to him and the wonder of who the Son of God is. I don't want that. To have him really open up who he is before me, and I didn't love him the way he deserved and believed in him the way he deserved, and him just say, I was so close to you, I wanted to help you. To just we're on a different filter and wavelength that so magnify the devils and the circumstances. Didn't give me a chance because he's a gentleman. So they repent of this. They say, we're so sorry. And they repent of it. Well, the next thing is joy hits them and celebration. And now they leave. It seems like their bodies, they go to heaven. All over this auditorium where they're just laughing and laughing and laughing. And like one boy I sat next to who had a lot of pain in his life, laughing and laughing. And I said, what's going on? He said, well, I'm in heaven. I feel like in my spirit he can converse with me. And he said, the Lord's showing me my future, and he's showing me my plan. He said, it's beautiful, wondrous, and he's telling me jokes. I said, well, tell me the joke. And he said, no, you wouldn't understand that. You're not in heaven with me. We have two boys that go out in the spirit. Some of them are our most intense boys, athletes, and just intellectual kids. And they're best friends, but they're 50 yards away from each other. It's a big auditorium. And they go out and they are meeting Jesus. But they're talking to each other. Now, how do we know this? Is we have a debrief meeting with leaders afterwards, with Bruce McGregor, Winky Pratt, Charles Lynn. And so they're leaders that are standing around them. And one's name was David Behrens, the other was David Becker. And so David Behrens said, you need to eat of the fruit. They're sitting at the table of the Lord with the Lord. Now, they can't talk to each other, but they're talking to each other in heaven. And one says, the Lord wants to give you apples, which meant love. You need love, and just understand His love for you. So these ones are watching this one chew. Lay there and chew. And then this one says, you need bananas, which means you need joy, and the Lord wants to give you joy. What a different filter. To see God and the transformation in these young people. I'm skipping a lot of detail, but now they move out of that place and they're walking with Jesus. They're hearing Jesus. They're seeing Jesus in all the situations of life. And we have pages of what we learned from those children who had a changed filter where they magnified God, not the situation. Just to give you one example, probably not the best, there was amazing examples, but it was touching. So one man I know, they have a little farm, so they got animals. And this one, his 6-year-old would love to go to prayer meetings now because now he's seeing Jesus in it and love to go. So the boy goes with him, but beforehand, the father had woke up and found out that the cat had died overnight. Not unexpected. And they had horses and dogs, but the boy really, really loved this cat. And so he doesn't tell the boy. They go to the prayer meeting, and on the way back from the prayer meeting, he said, Dad, I'm having a vision. And he said, it's somewhere outside of heaven or right in heaven, these pastures. And he said, I see Boots, which was their horse that died. And he said, then I see Redeemed, which was the dog that died. You know, and now I can't remember the name of the cat, but let's say Meow. I see Meow. And they're all up there so happy, and they're rejoicing, they're with Jesus, and they're playing with the animals and all this, and goes on. When he comes home, he goes up to his mother and said, did the cat pass? And the mother gets ready because this child just went into deep sorrow when they lost an animal, very attached to animals. And she said, well, honey, sit up on my lap and said, no, did the cat pass? And she said, yeah, the cat passed. He said, well, it's okay. The cat's somewhere in heaven, around heaven, and ran off. I want that kind of filter. I want that kind of view. I want to give you some of these other stories later that are just so good. But I love it. It is, it's fun. It changed life, because we had leaders come from all over the world to sit with 6- and 8-year-olds because they were seeing through the filter of Jesus. And they would just take notes after notes. And so we had this childlike opportunity to really believe God is who he says he is and invite him in. And this 2011 word, I want you to read it. It's on that list. It's on our webpage. This is a series of months of visitation where God was taking me out of the voice of the evil one, which creates mental illness in my thinking in different areas, into the voice of the Father who's given me a great inheritance and has promised me in this age 100 times more than what I could ever think, dream, and imagine. And he's much, much greater than the waves. Our hurdles become treasures. So commit to the Daniel 4:3. Great is our God, and greater are signs and his wonders, and he rules from the highest courts of heaven, and he rules on the earth if we invite him in. He's a gentleman, and we must invite in this grand, glorious God and become these hope craftsmen, or these shining ones that arise in the midst of darkness. And he's moving us into this hopeful view of his kingdom.